What is up, everybody? So, today we are going to check out the highlights of Jalen Carter. Now, Jalen Carter has been really considered the best defensive tackle into this draft. There's a lot of good guys there. One, namely, that I want to spend some time looking at some of his highlights is Kalijah Cansey, somebody who people like to compare to Aaron Donald because of his size and because of the school he went to. But I think overall, everyone kind of says that Jalen Carter is the prototypical guy. He's the guy that's supposed to go at the top. Some people say he's the most talented person in the draft. One guy that I forgot to mention in the defensive tackle class is Brian Breesy too. So I wanted to just at least shout him out. But I want to take a look at Jalen Carter's highlights, and I always say this as I begin, that I am not the quintessential draft analyst. I'm not a scout. I don't have any credentials that way. I didn't play football at the level that Jalen Carter's at, but I do love the game and I know a thing or two about it, so I want to share with you some of my thoughts about his highlights. Now, the reason why I talk about highlights and not necessarily breaking down all 22 is because I believe that the highlights are what Jalen Carter wants the world to see. And so if that's what he wants to put on display, I want to see that. So let's get into it. 300 pounds, that's prototypical size. Generally, you'd have a nose tackle a little heavier than that. If you're doing a straight true nose technique that's right over the center head on, generally those guys, you'll see them being 315, 320, but Jalen Carter projects as more of a 3 technique. And one thing that I've seen in some of his draft comparisons is that people like to compare him to guys like Jeffrey Simmons, somebody who's about the same size. And Jeffrey Simmons is known for his explosiveness and his athleticism. And so I think based on simply the comparisons, I think we'll see that with Jalen Carter in today's highlights. Let's check it out. Now, if I'm seeing 88 as a defensive tackle, I'm already like, what is going on? Speed rush move. Yeah, those kinds of moves work at the next level when you're able to just get past somebody just by hand usage. Yeah. There's some coaches I know, this junior college coach I know, he absolutely hates when defensive linemen use swim moves, in particular defensive tackles. But in situations like that, if you got it, you got it. He did a great job of first initiating contact with the shoulder so that he could get the other arm through. That's some pretty good technique. Showing off the power. I can lift you easily. Yeah, that's that bull rush. That move right there is going to translate to the next level. What he just did right there, just overpowering somebody, especially a guard in the SEC, and they're known for having big guards. Being able to do that at the next level is going to be crucial, and he can do that, I can tell. I'm already super impressed by this. Ooh, beating a center. Yeah, especially on those fold blocks like that. If you got a guy that doesn't need to initiate contact but can get wide and then bend a little bit, kind of like a defensive end, that's really a big asset for a team. Watch. Yeah. He knows that fold block is coming. He knows that the center's folding down so that the guard could go around. And as soon as he recognizes that, he's like, I'm just going to go around. Because the center is already expecting you to be right there, right in his purview. But if you can just take a little bit of a sidestep and then cut off, man, great move. One thing that I noticed about these Georgia defensive linemen that I've seen, especially in particular with their interior guys, is that they have this technique where they kind of like frog. They're kind of like sitting. And I think it's a read and react technique where they don't put a lot of weight. But I think imagine if you put a guy like Jalen Carter putting all of his weight, playing that 3 technique in that position. It's honestly kind of scary. Ooh, goodness gracious. Yeah. That's where you take that inside arm and get his outside arm. So say I'm right guard or right tackle in that play. He got control of his right shoulder using his inside hand and then toss with the hip. That's one, strength. Two, that's really good technique right there. You learn that in practice. And the difference between guys that make it from one level to the next are the guys who what they do in practice translate over. So when they're taught a technique, they're not just taught the technique and then they hold it in their tool bag and never pull it out. It's the guys that learn the technique, pull it out, and then use it effectively in the game are the ones who really make a difference. Straight bull rush. Yeah, man. Yeah. Now he doesn't have like long arms. I mean, I don't know. I don't know his measurables. I couldn't see it right now. But his arms are not extremely long. But he knows how to use leverage to his advantage. He's not a guy like DeForest Buckner that has really long arms. But he's a guy who can use leverage. And if you can use leverage, low center of gravity, extended arms, you can be really effective. And that's what he does a lot. Strong, got underneath that guard, made a move right over. Man, it's so impressive. You know, before we continue on, I just want to say I'm now seeing right here on this highlight video why people get so excited about guys like Jalen Carter. Yes, I understand off the field issues and things like that, but put him in the right spot. This guy is going to be special. I just reviewed Will Anderson's highlights, and this guy is going to be special. Because he has conventional technique. He's well coached. That Georgia defensive line room is very well coached. They're polished defensive linemen. He uses leverage unlike many defensive linemen. He doesn't need to get you half man. He'll just overpower you. He's standing up now. Look at that. That's just that's DN stuff, but on the inside. Come on now. Okay, now I see the length of his arms. He got long arms. But what do you look at his face. Let's go back just a little bit. Look at that guard's face. They slid right. He's like, where was the center? But he's also like, what are we doing? Man. As an offensive line coach, that is a nightmare. When you got your offensive lineman questioning the scheme because one player is just wrecking plays, that's a difference maker. Jalen Carter is a difference maker. Ooh. Yeah, affecting plays. On that last play, I just want you to get some context on that. Sometimes you're going to get a guy that you did not think was as strong because he's moving. He's all over the place. He just moved on the outside. Sometimes you get a guy that you didn't think was as strong, maybe on film or just in the first couple of reps that you found out can be strong. And it's like, when I can't push you into the lap of the quarterback, can I make a move? Can I read the quarterback? And he does that because he extends, he makes a swim move, diagnoses that it's taken me a long time to get there. So let me put my hands up. Man. I mean, what is there to say? Three technique. Following the guards, following the tackles, following anybody who pulls. At this level, people will fake pull a little bit. At the NFL level, they will fake pull a little bit. But the technique that's taught to high school defensive linemen is to follow the tackle, follow the guard. If you see them pull, they're not going to fake a pull. That's where the play goes. The play goes where the pull goes. And he follows it, leads him right to where he needs to be. Just get on his hip. He doesn't even know you're following him. We'll make a play, man. Yeah, as an offensive lineman, when they get the shoulder that you don't want them to get latched onto, and they make a play off of that, there's not really much you can do at that point. Yeah. So a couple thoughts about Jalen Carter is he's extremely polished. His technique, from what I saw in these highlights, is what you show to your kids to say this is what a defensive lineman looks like in our scheme. Like that's what it looks like. He deserves every bit of hype that he's gotten. The off the field stuff is a concern, but if I don't need a quarterback, he's the first person off my board. I'm gonna give you a disclaimer. As an Eagles fan, I'm hoping he falls to 10. Odds are that's not gonna happen. But if it does happen, the guy's a difference maker. If you have an interior defensive lineman and you think you're settled there and you're like, we don't need it, this guy makes a difference. He will complement any scheme because of his size, 6'3", 300, and you saw him play inside and outside on both sides. He can fit any scheme. There's some guys that don't fit into every scheme. This guy fits into every scheme. He's not so big that he can't play 3 technique. He's not so small that he can't play nose. He's not so big that he can't play outside. You saw speed there that translates to playing defensive end in a 4-3. Like, you saw that. So I'm really excited to see where he goes. All the best of luck to you, Jalen Carter. Good luck in the draft, and you got a fan in me for sure. All right, peace.